Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am so excited to be live. Dragon, thank you so much for subscribing. Gular and Chillmaker, thank you so much for subscribing. And Skylar, thank you so much for subscribing and those 2 gifted subs. Enjoy your mount, Skylar. Oh my goodness. So many subscriptions and everything. Anonymous Gifter, thank you so much for gifting subscriptions. So, real quick, Dragon, thank you so much for subscribing. For anybody that is here for the mount, awesome. Welcome. I'm gonna hop on the mount so that way you can see what the mount looks like. The mount is a fantastic reskin. I'm going to enter G pose as well, so that way we can fully see this beautiful, majestic beauty. So it is a fantastic reskin. It does look a little closer to the White Mage Unicorn mount. Red Hawk, thank you so much for resubbing. It is an absolutely beautiful mount, and it's not quite as glowy as the one that comes from Wondrous Tales. For anybody that's wondering what the one from Wondrous Tales comes out to be, which that one, let me tell you, I got stupid lucky for getting this one. I actually did get 3 lines like many years ago when I was an actual lucky sprout. But this is what that one looks like. It is nice and glowy. Doesn't have the rainbow effect though. So it is like the rainbow is absolutely awesome with the current Twitch mount. So thank you all so much for your subscriptions and everything. Thank you all so much for being here. I am so super appreciative. I was not expecting that right at the start of stream. Like y'all are amazing. So to start off with stream here, I do want to apologize that I did not stream on Sunday. I have made announcements and everything that I was going to stream on Sunday. I am still super bummed that I did not stream on Sunday. I had planned on streaming today no matter what anyway. Just to look a little bit more at the mount here. So I do want to talk about the stuff that I had originally planned on Sunday, which was some of the stuff with the keynote, because I watched the keynote Saturday night. Saturday was kind of a disastrous kind of day, and I was so excited about finally being able to sit down Saturday night and watch the keynote, and I took so many pages of notes, so that's why I was so mad at myself for messing up my computer. For those of you that are new here, I am not just a Final Fantasy XIV streamer, but I am also a Linux streamer. So I am on a Linux PC right now streaming. And Final Fantasy XIV runs absolutely amazing on it. So if you're one of those people that is feeling like you're stuck on Windows just because you aren't sure if games like Final Fantasy XIV are going to run on Linux, have no fear. It does run very well. The particular distribution that I am on is called Nobara, but I will forewarn anybody that is looking at distributions, Nobara is bleeding edge. So if you don't have like super up-to-date graphics card, CPUs, and all that stuff, it can be extra finicky, and it has a lot of updates, so you got to be like extra on it. Which was why I messed everything up on Sunday, and I'm still kicking myself for that. But I will say other distributions work absolutely fantastic with this game, and like if you do some of the other stuff that they say don't talk about, some of those things do still work fine. And also for those of you that are new here, I do talk a lot about various information about the game, like some different things that you can do. For instance, like one of the things that I end up doing quite a bit is I end up changing the scaling of different things in the game, showing some different things for Sprout users and everything. Lucifer, thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome. I do a lot of that type of stuff for our sprouts and everything. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm like so super distracted with all of the alerts because good morning, Lethal. How are you doing this morning? I don't know that I've ever had this many of the Final Fantasy alert sounds going on in such a short amount of time. Yes, thank you so much for the gifts, the subscriptions, and everything for those that are gifting subs. Deplock, thank you so much for those sub gifts and everything. My alerts page is also not used to me getting so many alerts. It's like, what is happening right now? You are a small time streamer. What is this? What is happening? And I'd say for anybody that's joining in, if you're not sure what the mount for this campaign looks like, I do have it on the screen here. It is a reskin of the White Mage Unicorn mount. The White Mage Unicorn mount is mostly white, though. Doesn't have nearly as much color and vibrancy. And the Wondrous Tail one has more green happening within its mane, and it's a lot more bright and glowy. But that one's also really, really hard to get. So I think this reskin of the unicorn is absolutely beautiful and fantastic. But for anybody that's new here, I do talk about a lot of information that could be really helpful to newer players. And honestly, some information ends up being helpful to veteran players as well. Because not gonna lie, some of this information I end up sharing because I'm like, oh, hey, I just learned this. I've been playing this game for quite some time and I didn't know this. And it's been out for a while. Like for instance, like with with some of the targeting settings with your mouse. I didn't know some of these settings were even here. These settings were here since at some point in Stormblood, if I recall correctly when I looked it up. I have not been playing since Stormblood. I started playing at some point in Shadowbringers. I didn't know this was here. Being able to just use my mouse to more easily target people on my party list, I didn't know it was a thing. So that's some of the stuff that I do end up sharing. And I want to talk about how some of the stuff from the keynote is going to impact people. Primarily, I want to talk about the chocobos. I know a lot of people that have talked about the keynote are like, Bastion, 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 Bastion. Don't get me wrong. I am completely and totally hyped for Bastion. For those of you that are also unaware, on Sundays, I typically stream with my a Lalafell character that is an alt character. She is in a Realm Reborn, and because she's a Lalafell, she will 100% be making the switch from White Mage to Bastion next expansion. But yes, we got to talk about the chocobos because they're supposed to be our best friends, right? Like, especially for those of you that are through Shadowbringers content and all that stuff, they make the analogy between us and our chocobo to Ardbert and Seto. And I don't know about any of you. Like, I actually do know about Lethal because we've talked about it in the Discord. But my relationship with my chocobo is nowhere near as strong as Ardbert Seto. And that's even with the fact that with my chocobo, like, I have my chocobo maxed out. I've put in all the work and everything to him. I've made him a beautiful boy. I decked him out in all kinds of armor and everything. Like, I have taken care of him and everything. But I wouldn't say my relationship with him is nearly as strong as the Ardbert Seto relationship. And I think that has a lot to do with the current system and how everything works. So I am absolutely pumped to see what exactly they are going to give us with this new system. Like, it should be absolutely fantastic. For those that are not familiar with the current system, you unlock your chocobo at some point during MSQ. My alt Boba does have her chocobo unlocked. She actually even went as far as unlocking battle for him. And I do highly recommend, if you don't have battle unlocked for your companion, you should make sure that you do that, because your chocobo can be helpful for quite a few things. For fates, getting blue mage spells, all kinds of things that are really more like solo content. Like, so absolutely awesome. But with the chocobos, for leveling your chocobo, typically you have them out in the field for leveling them, but another way that you can level your chocobo is within a stable. The stable is also the only way you can change your chocobo's color. With the stables are only available with housing, whether that be you have an apartment, there is a stable outside of your apartment building, or you have some sort of house. Like here, I'm at my free company house. Typically, like for me, I place the stables outside of my free company because everybody in the free company should be able to use it. Some people go ahead and place them outside of their personal houses. Because I placed one outside of my free company house, I was like, nope, I'm not going to waste the slot for Taserface to sit by himself at my house. I'm not doing that. He's going to socialize with my other free company people. Hey, David. Hello. Oh, thank you for the hydrate check. Thank you for the hydrate check. I don't know why it did that. I thought I'd made it not a subscriber perk, but I will say I did take a drink just now. Don't do that to me because my hydration at the moment is an energy drink, and actually I probably would survive. Like I actually kind of have low blood pressure anyway, so like I end up not being nearly as negatively impacted as most people. Wait, what? It says user timed out. Why? What? Why did a user get timed out? What happened? What happened? What? Yes, it must be the auto mod. I'm sorry, David. The auto mod decided that it was going to be mean. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Yes, yeah, it must have just been like, no to the excessive exclamation marks, which normally I don't use an auto mod, but I knew, especially with this campaign, I was like, I know this campaign is going to be really popular. And since I am my own moderator at the moment, I was like, I should go ahead and try to set some things up with some auto modding. And like, I do have like some auto modding even before now, but I went ahead and like upped some of it. And apparently I need to tell it no. Lots of caps is perfectly fine. Like like one of the reasons, like I get why I auto modded the all caps, I guess. I shouldn't have turned that one on. I don't know why I turned that one on. Like, let's see. Nope. I don't want the chat commands. I want to have... Yeah, because I turned off the spam filter. Here we go. We're going to turn off... Okay, I must back... Yeah, I didn't mean to turn on the caps protection. Caps protection is now off. There we go. There we go. Let me make sure I didn't turn anything else. Link protection. I do still want to keep link protection. Repetition protection. I don't think that one. Yeah, I'm going to disable those. I'm just going to keep the link protection on. Yeah, I don't think I actually had any of the stream elements ones enabled. Oh, I want to keep link protection on. Okay. Making sure I'm updating it for all the platforms, not just Twitch, because I think I did all these settings yesterday. Let's see, where is... Oh, apparently I didn't do it for... I didn't even do it for Kick. I did for YouTube and Twitch and not Kick. Anyway, so sorry about that distraction. And so sorry, hopefully it should be done with the timeout here in a minute, but To make up for the timeout, I'm going to do another hydration check. And a posture check, like making sure that I'm sitting up straight and everything. I try to sit up as straight as possible at this desk now because it is one of those standing desks, and I use a drafting chair, so I do try to sit up like even more. It's really an unconscious thing with me sitting up, but hopefully me disabling some of those things with all that, I'm like, ugh, that's annoying. Okay, so sorry. Anyhow, with the current system, requires housing. Yes, gotta take care of posture. And you can level the chocobos within the stables. So I'm going to select 10 to a chocobo. We have 4 chocobos stabled at my stables at the moment. Some of them are long-term residents. You can stable your chocobo for as long as you want to. The thing with that is you just got to make sure that the stable stays clean. And that's one of the benefits of doing it with a free company, is because you got all kinds of people that can keep an eye on it and help keep it clean. The other thing is that free companies have better access to the brooms. The brooms usually cost like 20,000 gil or something like that, if I recall correctly, which for Sprout solo players, that can be kind of expensive. Whereas a free company, they spend credits, and whoops, I'm like over here pressing a whole bunch of buttons. But up here at the top corner of mine, like I have, like my free company has over 63 million credits. Like, yes, welcome back. Welcome back. So sorry that it timed you out. Hopefully it shouldn't do it again. But it is so easy to end up getting these credits just by just being active in the game for the most part. You know, my free company is actually a pretty small free company, and to have that many credits, like, it's a... I don't hate hydration. Fine, I'll take another drink of Monster. Thank you for subscribing, David, despite the whole timeout thing. And thank you for the gift sub, Lethal. Yes, everyone lives once again, and thank you all so much for that. That totally made my day. With the chocobos, you can stable them for however long you would like. So, like, you just want to keep it clean because otherwise it can slow down the leveling progression of the birds and all that stuff. So you want to be able to see this nice glittery glow with all the chocobo stables and everything like that. So right now I won't be able to clean it because it's already clean and glowy because somebody else in my free company already took care of it. I just go and use credits to purchase brooms every once in a while and keep them in the free company trust, and then people go and clean it. Sometimes I clean it, sometimes someone else does it. Vast majority of the time here lately it has been someone else, but there for a while it was me doing it. If you want to tend to a chocobo, so like here I'm going to click on Potato Pam, you have to have some sort of reward to give the chocobo. Typically you can give them all kinds of different foods and everything. This is one of the things that they are looking into as far as the current system. We're not 100% sure if like the food is going to be something where it's like, okay, certain ones give more experience, certain ones give less experience, this, that, or the other. Like, not 100% sure. So like we have the cracker roots that you can feed your chocobos. I'm going to go ahead and grab the curriole roots. Other foods just change their colors, like the hand lemons, the berries here, the gourds, all like they just change the colors. But some of them change the experience. We might see something where they decide to update the system where, based upon the food that you give them, is going to change whether they are more of a tank healer or a DPS. Because like right now, as you see with the chocobos that are in this stable, they're not necessarily balanced out. Some of them have them geared more towards healer. Some of them have them balanced between healer and tank. Some of them have some more points in DPS. They're just all balanced a little bit differently based upon whatever stats you want to put in with your chocobo. I'm going to go ahead. So if it's not going to increase their if it's not going to actually increase the experience, like that one wasn't going to increase the experience, it gave me a warning. Even though the description says increase experience, that's because it's a summoning food like the Gishaw greens, if I recall correctly. Honestly, I've never used the curriole roots. I end up with a bunch of curriole roots and never end up using them. Another reason why the system needs reworked. But they could be trained once an hour, pretty much in a similar way to what we see with similar training systems like with the grain companies and all that stuff. It's a very outdated system because there's not only that, but then also like you notice that some of these chocobos are level 6, some of them are level 13 and everything. Without access to Thavnarian onions, the highest level you can get with your chocobo is level 10. But you notice that mine is level 20. Level 20 is the actual cap at the moment. And as you can see, I have all 3 specs completely leveled out. Like there's like Taserface can properly flex to whatever the crap he wants to be. I just change his stance based upon what I want him to be. Most of the time, I just tell him to do whatever he wants because that way I can blame him for stuff. But it's a very dated system back from like A Realm Reborn and everything. And I feel like hopefully, hey Neris, hopefully they update the system because I feel like in particular, oh, you're totally good, Neris. I am A-okay with lurkers, you know. Like I don't take issue with lurkers at all. Like I tend to be a lurker myself, so like it'd be very hypocritical of me to be like, nah, I can't have lurkers in the stream. Like, no, that's just not how I roll. With Thavnarian onions, I feel like it's just not very welcoming to newer players for the most part, because with Thavnarian onions, there's only a couple ways to get them. One of them is with side quests, but like I said, the normal cap without them is level 10. And so that means that there are 10 levels to get that you need Thavnarian onions for. And you have to get Yes, I'm so happy that messages from everywhere show up on the screen now, because the reason originally when I first started streaming, I didn't have that before because of a Twitch rule. Twitch had a rule saying, no, you cannot have chats from other platforms showing up on the screen. Now, so long as I'm not saying, hey, go watch over here, go watch over there, and trying to drive people away from Twitch, they don't care if the chat's on the screen. So that's why I'm like, all the chats from everywhere is coming up. Yes, I think they changed it in like March or something like that. I think it was like mid-March that they decided to go ahead and allow for multi-stream chats to show up on the screen. So I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like, pretty much immediately I was like, we are going to get chats onto the screen because since I do stream to multiple platforms, I was like, I want to make sure that like I wanted to, or I had already built something for me to be able to see all the chats. So I was like, well, now I want to take this and make it so that my viewers can also see it. So that way, if I have people from multiple platforms, like you could still have conversations with each other, not just with me and me having to relay everything. Which I think is especially handy during times that I may be like hyper focused on something. Anyhow, with the Thavnarian onions, you need them for every level past level 10. So that's see ya, Lethal. Good to see ya. Thanks for joining today. You need one per level for those 10 levels. There are only 2 side quests that give Thavnarian onions, and they give 1 Thavnarian onion each. So that only gets you to level 12 without having to go make a purchase or anything like that from like the market board, which is especially unfriendly to our free trial people. And right now, Thavnarian onions, I'm actually just going to search for onion. So this is Thavnarian onions. That's actually a lot more expensive than what I was anticipating. And based upon the dates, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. A lot of people were buying this after the FanFest announcement because people are like, let me get my Chocobo leveled before the system update, because they said the system update's not, like, if you've already capped, it's not going to negatively impact you. I'm going to go ahead and keep chatting. Even though I know it has an ad break, I do think most people on Twitch at this point either have a sub or a gifted sub. But they can fluctuate in price. Typically, that higher end of the fluctuation happens around an expansion drop, because that's when people are grinding out fates. In particular for expansions, Shadowbringers, and later, because you can get all kinds of extra rewards and all that stuff by doing so many fates within each zone. And then on top of that, you get bicolored gemstones, which can be traded in for various materials and things like that. That is needed for like end game and everything like that. Why Twitch is running a 3-minute ad right now is beyond me, but I do apologize. So at expansion drops, that tends to go up. Right now, it's probably also up. The reason it gets so expensive is because the alternate way of getting it is with gardening. And because of how it works with gardening, it has to be done in these exterior plots, so it takes an actual house. Like, can't do it with an apartment, you can't do it with an FC room. So the housing system that's yes, thanks, David. With the exterior gardening system for getting Thavnarian onions, it's one of the more complex crosses that is in the game at the moment. And the reason that is because you have to use a crop that was crossed to get to the Thavnarian onion potential cross. And then on top of that, it's still not guaranteed. Like, one of the reasons I have Curial roots is because the cross that I was doing took Curial roots. But I'll show with my private house, because originally these 2 planners were set up when this free company was a medium. So I also utilized my personal plots for this. But here I did Star Anise and Curthian Tea Leaves, if I recall correctly, for crossing. And what those ended up crossing was to get jute. And then I would take those jute seeds and plant them in with the Curial roots and cross those to potentially get Thavnarian onions. Potentially. the cross at this garden to get to the jute takes like 4 days. So you have to tend it every day for 4 days. Then with the next cross, going back to the Free Company house, with this cross, this one takes 5 days of tending, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong on those days. It's been a few months since I've done it. And then you could take those Savinarian onion seeds and you can plant them outside in the gardens if you want, once you have those Savinarian onion seeds. Or if you don't want to plant those in the garden because you have the seeds, you just want to grow the onions, you could place them in the planters inside of houses or anything like that. And to get one onion, it takes 10 days of growing those Savinarian onion seeds. And you have to tend those every single day. There's no forgiveness with that right now. And especially with the fact that they talked about wanting to have more forgiveness, such as more forgiveness by doing weekly rewards instead of daily rewards, for instance. I'm like, yeah, I think they're going to want to rework the fact that we are utilizing Savinarian onions for this, because right now that onion system is not forgiving. In the early days of the Free Company that I have here, I was making Savinarian onions, and well, then I had to have my gallbladder removed. So I was out for several days, and I'd been in the hospital for a couple days before I managed to get my laptop there for me to log in. Unfortunately, the crops all withered and died. So it's like, if you can't log in every day or have someone log in every day to tend to those, it's so unforgiving. Yeah. I was very sad. Fortunately, it ended up being okay, because like I still have 16 seeds now and 6 onions now for my Free Company members, which is why I haven't done it in months. Like I farmed it up for a while, and then like no one was putting their chocobos in the stables, and no one was really leveling their chocobos. So I'm like, guys, I have all these onions for you. I have all these onions. Please use the onions. So that's why like my gardens are just kind of sitting there the way that they are. But yeah, that's why they can get so expensive. It's because these Savinarian onions are such a pain in the ass. And they end up plummeting in price because after a while, people aren't pulling out their chocobos, and then they just aren't needed as much because people aren't leveling their chocobos. So then, there's no sense in having as many onions out there and about. So then you end up having a higher supply than there is a demand. So then the price ends up dropping. So the price fluctuates quite a bit on the Savinarian onions. Like, I don't necessarily think that it's a completely horrible system by any means. It's just not very, especially for any new players that may start in like Evercold or anything like that, wanting to take them into dungeons and wanting them to level up properly and all that stuff. The Savinarian onions, like 300,000 gil, I don't think Boba has 300,000 gil to be able to spend on Savinarian onions. Like, that's just not within her wheelhouse. It's within this character's wheelhouse. Like, I placed a bid on a medium plot yesterday, and I still have 23 million gil. So, like, this character, like, dropping that kind of gil on Savinarian onions is nothing. But this character is also an older character that I made during Shadowbringers. Like, it's been around a while and been farming up gil. Like, I even have things in my inventory that I need to literally, like, these are, like there's 150,000 gil right there. Like, I need to get rid of some stuff that's in my inventory by literally just vendoring them. But yeah, the current system just, it has needed this rework for a long time. And especially with the addition of being able to take chocobos into dungeons and stuff, which I think is an absolutely fantastic and awesome update, because I feel like particularly a lot of new players, they come to this game because they have a friend that plays it. They want to play with that friend. They don't want to play with a whole bunch of strangers. They want to play with that friend. And I think that being able to take the chocobos in, create that bond with the chocobo like we're supposed to have, based upon the storyline from Shadowbringers, and being able to spend time with your friend while still utilizing some sort of duty support system is absolutely an amazing update that should be coming. I think that was a very good choice on their parts to make this addition. But yes, reworking this system, I don't know necessarily what the answer is. But I know that Thavnari Onions, we got to do something different that is a little bit more forgiving for those newer players if we want them to utilize the chocobos. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think this community is absolutely wonderful and does a great job with newer players as far as going into instances and things like that, for the most part. But I also understand that anxiety to my core as someone who struggles with anxiety and someone that came to this game from pretty much top tier toxic World of Warcraft. And this was retail World of Warcraft back from Cataclysm days and Lich King days, back when it was really, 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 really toxic as crap. I get it. I get feeling anxious about queuing into instances with other players. And in addition to that, I feel like sometimes those queue times don't work with everybody's schedules. The other day, I was talking to someone in my free company that he is working through the end of Shadowbringer so that way he can get the Endwalker. Needless to say, it took some bullying with some gifts to get him back on track. Because we're you said that you are pumped for Evercold and that you needed to get to Endwalker so that you can really be able to enjoy Evercold, hopefully at launch. You really have a whole bunch of catching up to do, but seeing everything with Bastion, you're feeling motivated. So we're not going to let you lose that motivation. So we're going to bully you into going through and doing these instances. Well, unfortunately, he was trying to queue for a trial at 3 a.m. Well, naturally at 3 a.m., not very many people are on. So it's okay, so one way to be able to fill in that void is to allow for duty support and those types of things. And the other thing I think that will help is their announcement with the whole regional party finder, which also should affect duty finder and party finder both. Which should absolutely be amazing because I have been one of those people that has had to hop servers completely just so I can find a party and party finder. Because I think most of you that are in the chat at the moment are on the North American or on a North American data center. Which means that you know that for anything that is Savage progression, for instance, if you want to progress Savage content, you gotta go to Aether. That's the only place that really progresses any of that stuff. If I were to there's absolutely no hits whatsoever. Now, granted, this is a Wednesday afternoon, so I kind of expect that to or pretty much expect this all to be pretty dang empty. But it's the most that we have over here at Crystal at the moment is a couple outdated extreme trials. Yeah, this one's from earlier this expansion. One person trying to do a trial so that way they can get a Blue Mage spell. But it's even in the evenings and weekends, Savage progression isn't happening on Crystal. It's not even happening so much on Primal anymore. It's definitely not happening on Dynamis because Dynamis is the newest data center that was added just a few years ago. So it's like being able to expand that is going to help with that so much, not just with the party finder, but also the duty finder and those queues for off times. Like right now, like let's say I wanted to do Savage Progression right now because I have the time to do it right now. Well, if I wanted to do that right now, obviously, like I can't stay on Crystal if I want to progress Savage. That, or I have to, no problem, David, go ahead and take that work call. If I want to progress Savage, I could certainly hit recruit members and create my own search. But I would have to fully expect to stand here and spend my entire window available for gaming just standing here waiting for people to join it. So, like, I think we could fill in some gaps for, like, MSQ being with the Chocobo and everything. But then that crossworld stuff should also really, 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 really help for those odd end times. Like, I think those two updates are just fantastic quality of life updates that are absolutely needed. I hope that the Chocobo update is going to help inspire them for some other quality of life updates that I would really like to see. One of them being with the free companies, because we haven't seen a ton of updates with free companies. Like we've seen updates with housing, and we are still expecting some housing. Like for those with small houses, should at some point be able to expand it to look like the interior of a large. The exterior is going to still look like a small, but the interior is going to pull Mary Poppins here or Hermione's bag in Harry Potter and just be absolutely massive if you want to. Or if you want to switch it to the size of a medium, like that is something that is supposed to be coming that they've promised to us for a very long time. If I recall correctly, they promised that all the way back when they were doing the Dawn Trail Fan Fests. So we are seeing updates on that front, but what I would like to see updates on are, for instance, like the buff system. The buff system right now, there are only so many options for what buffs you could make. As far as a wheel stand goes for making these buffs, a lot of times we call them cooking. At least anybody that I've talked to for free company stuff, because it's just always funny to talk about free company stuff like so we're dealing drugs and stuff. Because it just sounds that way when we talk about it, particularly when other players are like listening to the conversation. But like grade 1s do like a 5% buff, grade 2s do a 10% buff, and grade 3 does a 15%. Just as an example, for like the combat one, or experience gained through combat. I would like to see some sort of upgrade or adjustment to this. And in addition to that, I guess like I don't know. I just really want to see some updates to this, because like right now, for making these buffs, you first have to you have to make a workshop if you want the tier 3 buffs. Tier 2 and tier 1, you can use free company credits for, which, as I said, you get so many of them. But the tier 3 is where this whole very outdated system comes in. That, like, it gets thrown a couple bones every once in a while, but that's about it. This system, you have to unlock things with the schematic board, which I think the schematic board will be easier for me to demonstrate on a different character, because almost the entire board, like, I have almost everything there unlocked. I do have everything for housing unlocked. Aether Wheel, I have everything for tier 3 unlocked. Like, I have quite a bit of that unlocked. But you have to unlock a schematic for those buffs. And then you go to this fabrication station and say, okay, I want to make an Aether Wheel. Oh, I guess maybe it's tier 1s I don't have unlocked. I really don't know which ones of those Aether Wheels I don't have unlocked, but doesn't necessarily matter. I have all the grade 3 ones. you have to then craft each of these buffs one at a time. You can't bulk craft them. You have to make them one at a time. You can bulk craft the materials, but then, like, let's see. Let's see if I potentially have some of these materials in the free company chest or something. Maybe I do. Probably don't. Deep green, deep red. We're gonna grab deep red. Deep red. I don't have the other materials. Never mind. I'm not gonna do that. But with how this works, you have to go up to here, and then with each of these, you have to place. So with the buffs, like, takes 3 electric ingots. You place those ingots in one at a fucking time. Then you go to the superior deep green enchanted for the Wheel of Pilgrimage. That is, this mat does change. Like, the efficiency takes deep blue and industry takes deep red. But with those inks, you place those 3 in one at a fucking time. Mithrite, 1 in at a fucking time. Unaspected crystal, which comes from a Realm Reborn time nodes, 1 at a fucking time. Because you place them in 3 batches, quote, quote. So with these buffs, since there's 3 and you have to have 3 batches, you could only do 1 at a fucking time, and then you can complete it. So if you want to make a whole bunch of wheels and just have them prepped ahead of time, which is what I like to do, quote, like is used very fast and loose here, by the way. Yeah, if you want to do that all in one sitting, it's going to take you for fucking ever. Doesn't matter if you already had these crafted and stuff. You're just going to sit here forever just feeding the materials to this damn machine to get these wheels. Even if you're just making, like, let's say 15. Expect to spend like 15 minutes here just feeding it these dang materials. And it's this way with all of the grade 3 buffs. It's this way with all the grade 2 buffs. It's really fucking annoying. But after you make a wheel, you then have to go out to the wheel stand. And you're like, okay, wheel stand, you go over here, place or remove a wheel. If you have a wheel in there, you pull it out. You select where you want to put it in at, you place it in, and then it has to cook for 72 hours or 70 hours or something like that. It's almost 3 days is how long it takes to cook. And then you come back 3 days later and you replace it and you keep rinsing and repeating that process. This is why, like, most free companies offer tier 3 buffs only a couple times a week, because those Aether wheel stands, you can only place 1 in the house and you can only cook 1 grade 3 wheel at a time. Now, those grade 3 wheels are all the equivalent to the highest buff you can get from your Grand Company Squadron, which is another thing I hope that they update. But either way, it is a pain in the ass. So it's like, okay, these 2 came into the equation. Well, where the hell does this come into the equation? Well, the schematic board, I'm going to click on the airships and submersibles. These materials, the balsa wood lumber and bamboo weave, come from the things that are on this panel. So, like, my submarines can potentially come back with those bamboo lumbers and all that stuff. They take a while. So, like here, I'm going to go ahead and finalize this report for this submarine. My submarine here is level 118. I don't have my submarines capped at the moment because I just keep sending them on the same ones. But these paths can take a while. So, like, just to send, for instance, let's say I want to send this submarine to Coral Island, it's going to take my submarine almost an entire day. So, like, all of these take time. They take quite a bit of time, and you come back every day or so to check on them, depending on how you set up your airships and submarines. I'm going to go ahead and finalize these while I'm here. The reason I'm sending them out on the same paths is because they're coming back with these vendor items that I can just sell to a vendor for making some gil. And I'll check back on those other two. How you build these comes back to unlocking things on the schematic board, which is where you have to unlock these different schematics for your airship and submersible buildables. Now, for part of your airship, I can't remember exactly. I think you get automatically one of the schematics or something like that for an airship, but the starter submarine one is just a regular crafted material. Like, if I recall correctly, it's like mahogany lumber, like 10 of them or something like that to unlock the schematic for the shark submarine components. But otherwise, unlocking these other components, you have to get them from specific maps on your on your voyage control panel. And you gradually build that out, and you send your submarines, you map things out, you level them up. You get these materials, you come over here, you unlock them on the schematic board. You build those submarine parts by going over here to the fabrication station and saying, hey, I want to build these submarine parts. And then I'm going to outfit my submarine so long as it meets all the requirements for me to throw these components onto there. Like, it all takes a long time to build everything up. Now, the overall system for this is not necessarily bad, but I do hope that they update something like the buffs, for instance, because the buffs haven't been updated for a long time. Like right now, we have tier 2 buffs at the moment in my free company because I haven't felt like making tier 3 buffs. Because, as you can see, or as I said, it takes a long time to make those buffs. Whereas tier 2s, I can purchase those with credits. I don't have to make them in the oven like I did with the tier 3 ones. But it's like, okay, you get experience increased through battle by 10% and reduced teleportation fees by 30%. This has been very consistent. We haven't seen updates to buffs for the most part. Like, there have been some changes. Not a ton, but some. Like, for instance, like one of the buffs got completely swapped out for increasing your movement speed in towns. There's, that's proper care, that which binds us, control. Where is seal sweetener, markup, lodging, helping hand, earth and water. Oh, I think it was they had that and then they swapped it out with pilgrimage or something like that. I can't remember exactly what they did, but they did do a small update to buffs a couple expansions ago. But otherwise, the updates we've seen is airships have seen absolutely no love. Like, they're capped at level 50. There are only 24 sectors. We have not seen updates to the airships pretty much since A Realm Reborn. Submarines, we have not had new components come out. But what we do see is we see new maps and new things that can come from those maps dropping every once in a while. So, like the Lilac Sea, like you notice that these levels are much higher. That's because submarines came out in Heaven's Ward, if I recall correctly, and these unlock with different expansions. And each of these maps, like I've mapped other locations out, up to level 120. I definitely don't have everything mapped out. But they give us more maps that have different things to drop and things like that. But otherwise, we haven't seen that much happening there. I'm going to go ahead and send that out. Also, for anybody that does end up tending to submarines, just so you know, if someone else pops into the room as you are tending to the submarines and you send them out on a voyage like that, they will get stuck in that cutscene too. It's not just the person that's managing the control panel. Everybody in the room gets sucked in. The only other thing that we've seen updates for as far as this workshop goes is with housing projects, and they add housing projects based upon past competitions. They were doing quite a few of them. I think they've been focused on the item updates and the interior updates so much that we haven't seen an update in quite some time, which is why I don't have the current maps mapped out at the moment. I'm really far behind on that, actually, because I have all the prototypes for the housing unlocked. But we do see some new drops and things like that happen here. We just don't have a whole lot happening with those workshops. So that would be an update I would like to see. I would also, and I know I'm not alone on this because people have said this on my videos, grand companies. Holy crap, I would love to see an update to the grand companies. I don't know that we're going to see that in Evercold, especially with the whole theme of us going to the fourth, for us being the wanderer that is traveling to these other worlds, and apparently our goal is to unite the stars onto one and whatnot. But I would absolutely love, love, love to see an update to this. Something. Just something. Like, not being able to progress past Captain. Like, come on. Like, we know that, let's see, oh, profile, this is what I want. So like right here, I'm gonna make that larger. They put in higher ranked commission officers for all of the grand companies. Like I'm a captain, like if I were to go back to Maelstrom, I could get right back up to captain easily. If you switch grand companies, by the way, it is pretty quick to restore anything you've done with your squadrons. It's just getting through the petty stuff. But they put in these ranks and it never did anything with them. It never got implemented. I would like to see something with this, see some sort of rewards for doing more with all of that. Now, I understand like not updating the hunt board for Realm Reborn and all that stuff. Like, you know, that's more specific to an expansion, but give me an update for my poor squadron buddies here that I never spend time with. Like I ranked them all up. I spent a ton of time with them when I was ranking up and everything like that. But I haven't spent time with them in so long, and most people, if they do spend time with them, and yes, it is totally a big game. It is so big and massive, so huge. It's huge. But yes, so glad to have you lurking. Welcome to the chat, Thorax. But yeah, they haven't updated this in so long. Like, let me scale this up too so we can see it a little bit better. Like if I'm starting to run low on, like I have 60 of these Aetheryte passes. This is the equivalent of a tier 3 buff, so I would give 40% reduction in fees instead of, right now my free company, we have a tier 3 or tier 2 buff up, so it's only a 30% reduction. So I'd get a better reduction for 2 hours by using these Aetheryte priority pass. Excuse me. But I've got 60 of them, so I don't need to stock up on those. I still... Hey, H-Block. Glad you could finally join the chat. Welcome to the chat. But I still have 9 of these. I'm like, if I come back and do my squadron here, I will probably send them for squadron maintenance stuff. I used to send them for that one and squadron rationing when I was doing salvage progression last expansion. Because I typically, for most of my free company, they weren't doing salvage progression, so they didn't care as much about gear repairs and food maintenance. So I used those for myself and kept reduced teleportation fees and experience increased in battle. I don't really care about spirit bonding and stuff. I'm capped, so I don't really keep the engineering manuals or the survival manuals. But I would love it if they give us something with this to do. As I said, I don't necessarily foresee them doing this necessarily in the near future, by any means. Because, like, we're not going to be able to take these guys to the 4th with us. At least I don't think so. Like, we're going to prioritize the other scions, but still, like, how am I supposed to be able to leave Eorzea behind when my squadron is just sitting on their asses and not doing anything? Like, come on. Let me do some more with them. That would be a nice addition. As I said, like, I don't necessarily expect that to happen in the near future. I'm way more excited about the Chocobo updates. I do think the Chocobo updates is more necessary than the Grand Company updates, especially since we don't do that much with our Grand Companies for the most part. But it's also a matter of, okay, they made it a point to still have us join a Grand Company and do some things with the Grand Company back in A Realm Reborn. But then it just kind of, it kind of is an incomplete feature because, like I said, like there are ranks that we can't unlock still. Like, they're there. They exist. They built it out, but they just never, either they didn't finish building it out or they just never implemented it. Which at this point, it's like, I don't necessarily want them to just implement it by any means. It's a matter of, maybe we could rework some things a little bit so that way they can be implemented, but it definitely needs a little bit more fleshing out, so that way we can work with them more. But the Chocobos especially, like, so excited about that. I cannot wait to see what they end up doing with the Chocobos, because my poor Chocobo buddy, like, some of my alt characters have Chocobos that are long-term residents, or were long-term residents, and I pulled the Chocobos out because I had some free company members teasing me about it. They're like, we're going to port you for Chocobo abuse because your Chocobo just lives in the stables all the time. And particularly, they were teasing my alt character that's a Mikote, and I'm like, it's the Chocobo staying there because he likes to socialize, and Mamiko likes taking long cat naps. So I feel like that is totally a common thing, a common theme with the Chocobos. Like, there are plenty of times where they just don't get used in fights, and later in the story they make it sound like, oh, well, your bond with your Chocobo is just so strong and everything. And it's like, I don't think most people would agree with that, with the current system. And I really want to see them adjust that system so that way players can feel that strong bond with their Chocobos. What I'm going to do, I am going to switch characters real quick. So let me hide my log screen real quick so I can do that swap. And, oh, I shouldn't have. I'm going to swap to one of my characters. Depending on what you're using them for, it totally can be a hassle to use them. For me, what I typically used them on was Fates, treasure map parties, and for Blue Mage stuff. And it felt like a hassle with Blue Mage, but also Blue Mage in general can just feel like a hassle because it's got such a weird, quirky system. And that's just part of its lore and everything. It is supposed to be very, very gimmicky and take a lot of, oh, let me tweak this and try that, and doing a lot of adjusting based upon that. But I use the Chocobo for Blue Mage when trying to like unlock spells, and have my Chocobo kind of take some of the heat off of me. Particularly if it's like, well, I'm going to do too much damage, but I need to make sure the spell goes off, and I don't want to die in the process, and I don't have healing spells yet. So I would have my Chocobo in healing stance, just focused on healing me. I would have him provoke and then heal me, and I would just stand there waiting for it to cast the spell that I needed, then worry about killing. Okay. This will illustrate the point about the free companies a little bit better. There's also the fact that like there are free companies that I think the housing updates made it easier for free companies to get housing, but there were, before they updated the housing system to have free company specific words, it was hard for free companies to get a house so that they could do this stuff. This is going to be a little bit easier to see the unlocking of different things, because this character's free company doesn't have much unlocked whatsoever. But yeah, for any buffs, you have to, any buffs, free company housing exteriors, like this is free company housing exteriors. The most recent one that came out was the country house that they've had for a while. Thank you for the follow, Sinuver. I am so sorry if I butchered your name there. I butcher all names, pretty much. I am terrible at pronouncing, like, everything. I'm so sorry. But with all of these, you have to have certain materials that come from, like, specific maps. That applies to the housing. That applies to schematics, which... Thank you all for the subscriptions. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy that mount. I actually just swapped characters. Otherwise, I would show off what that mount looks like so that way you can see that beautiful rainbow unicorn. It is a reskin of the Conjurer unicorn, but the Conjurer unicorn doesn't have all that much color to it. And the rainbow unicorn is much, much, much more vibrant. Not quite as bright as the Wondrous Tales unicorn, but also Wondrous Tales, you have to have 3 lines. That is a pain in the butt to get, unless you are stupid lucky like I was when I was a Sprout, and I managed to get it. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much again for those gifted subs. That is absolutely awesome for you to share the gift of subscriptions with everybody here. Thank you so much for doing that. With unlocking these prototypes, so the prototype 1 for Airship, I already do have unlocked apparently. So I didn't go through and unlock airships. So it must have just came by default. But here with the very first prototype for the submersibles, I did remember correctly. It's been a few years since I've unlocked one. But it only takes 6 mahogany lumbers, not 10, 6. But I did remember the mahogany lumber correctly. But everything else takes going to specific maps on this voyage control panel. That's true for the submersibles, that's true for the housing projects, and that is true for the Aether Wheel projects. For anything that you unlock here, comes up on the fabrication station, and then with the fabrication station, Looks like the only thing I have unlocked for the fabrication station is a couple exteriors, airship things, and a wheel stand. But you go in here, you say like begin. I'm just gonna go ahead and say begin. That way we can see it. And then you contribute materials. And it will be white if you actually possess the materials. I don't have any of these materials, but you do it 3 at a time for this project for a total of 9. So you have to click or add rivets in 3 times, nails in 3 times, dark steel ingots 3 times, electrum ingots 3 times, and then you can finish. Now, the reason they did it like this was because the purpose of these projects was for it to be made by an entire free company. So like that's why you see like on this small merchant's walls even, you see the quantities are pretty high, and they go extremely high up to 165 on the largest. But that's not the only thing you have to do. That's just for the exterior wall. You have to do the roof, door, and all that stuff. You just have to click through so many things just to contribute. And you have to have specific amounts to contribute, which makes it a pain in the ass if somebody is trying to do it solo, but it also makes it a pain in the ass for someone that's just like, oh, well, I want to contribute, I just don't have much to contribute. And then on top of that, with all the item bloat that's going on still with the game, they've done quite a bit to help that, but depending on your free company's rank, you might not have very many tabs available, and those tabs can fill up rather quickly. Like, my free company pretty much just has me in it, and I've only got 3 tabs because the rank just isn't very high. Like, let's see, what is my rank? Yeah, I'm high enough to have a house. I'm rank 6 with this free company. But you unlock up to 2 more tabs, and then that's it. There's just... Yes, it would be so nice to be able to have a little bit more connection with your alt characters and stuff, because like that was one of the things I absolutely loved about World of Warcraft, was I could easily send things to and from my alt characters. Whereas like here, there are plenty of times that's like, okay, well, I like getting these components over to here for this character was a pain in the ass. I had to use other characters in order to get it to happen. Whereas it would have been nice if I could have just simply mailed it. Now, granted, I wouldn't have been able to in this particular case because this alt character is all the way over on Seraph. That's one reason why I was like, I'm not going to bore you guys with seeing the whole load screens and all that stuff. And my main character's over on Diabolo, so would have been a little extra of a challenge to get things over here. Like I don't foresee them doing that, but yes, it would be absolutely nice if we could do that. But I don't foresee them doing that. Here we go. There's a better illustration of the build of the gardens for the chocobos. Because here I have the Curial roots and I have the jutes. So this should potentially cross to get Saphnarian onions. There we go. It's going to come up on my screen in a second. I got the Saphnarian onion seed. And I got a jute because that was what I just harvested. This time I only got Shroud tea seeds. But yes, it is so hard to decorate and send and do things with furniture and buy furniture and all of that stuff. Like, it's difficult and challenging, and it's frustrating. And especially with the current systems like this, with the Saphnarian onion seeds, like, see, 2 out of the 4 times so far, I got onions, and then the other 2 times I got Shroud tea seeds. which I don't need Shroud Teat Seeds. Oh, in the 5th one there were Shroud Teat Seeds. Like, it's annoying and it's frustrating. So it's like, I hope that they fix that. I hope that they, or give alt characters and lower level characters and stuff a better way of getting these onion seeds. Shroud Teat Seeds. Shroud Teat Seeds. There's a Thavnarian Onion. Shroud Teat Seeds. Thavnarian Onions. So Thavnarian Onion Seeds. I have a total of 8 now. I already had some in my bag, but vast majority of what I harvested there out of the 10 did not come out to be Thavnarian Onion Seeds. Like, I think it was like 6 or 7 of them ended up being Shroud Teat Seeds. So it's like, it's a fairly small chance of getting the Thavnarian Onions. It's the Curthian tea leaves that I want to harvest. But what I'm harvesting here with the Curthian teas, crossing with these star anise, that gives me the jutes that I can then go over to here and plant jutes. And in order to get across, you have to use Thanalan topsoil. It's like, it's a whole weird and complex system that is just, it is not friendly to lower level characters whatsoever. And it's like, yes, while a lot of new players come join the game with a higher level friend already playing the game, there are some people that want to come to the game in as a group of new players. And a group of new players that looks at a system like that, at the current Chocobo system, for instance, and they're like, oh, well, I want to take my Chocobo into a dungeon with my friend, but, oh, apparently the cap is level 20, but I can only get to level 10 without these Thavnarian Onions, but I can't afford the Thavnarian Onions. How do I get them myself? Oh, well, this is a huge, long, complicated, like, it's a complicated mess, and it ends up leading to people getting discouraged and leaving. Especially since the game is already so big, and there's already so much MSQ to go through. Like, it's something that needs an update so much. So much. Another thing that I am excited for is, so my raw here, I'm going to go into G-pose so I can zoom in a little bit better. Let's see, how did, here we go. Focus on her face a little bit better. So, my raw here. My raw has resting bitch face. And that is because the horns that I like the best come with resting bitch face. And so all of my female raws have resting bitch face. Do I want all of them to have resting bitch face? No. However, the pairing of this horn and face is the combination I like the best of the current 4 options. And what they announced at the keynote is they're updating it so that way the horns is a separate thing from the face. So you can mix and match the horns and face, which I'm like, thank goodness. Because like some of the faces I do like, but I don't like the horns. Or vice versa. I'm like, oh, I like these horns, but I don't like the face that comes with it. Like, I would like that face better if it was with these horns. Like being able to mix and match it so that way I don't have the same resting bitch face raw for all of my raws, because I do love the raws a lot. Like, I feel like that helps so much. Now, I feel like they need to do a little bit more for the male raws because particularly their run, they look like Crash Bandicoot a little bit with their runs, but I feel like that is still a huge, massive improvement, just being able to adjust the face and the horns separately. Like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. Thank freaking goodness. I also like that they are, for all races and everything, are changing the skin, so that way it's a color picker. And when they say color picker, I feel like they mean that it's more of an RGB scale for the color picker, using the little dropper instead of having the current preset options. I feel like having it be more of an RGB is going to be a little bit better. I get why they had it the way that it was before. For instance, with the Vieira, with our beautiful buns. I'm gonna go ahead and go back out to the log screen real quick. With our beautiful Vieira friends. So depending on where they are at, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it as a new character. I don't want a male. I can't make males. With our Rava Vieiras versus our Vina Vieiras, the Vinas are more of our mountain buns, snow-capped mountains to be more precise, whereas our Rava are of the wood. And lore-wise, the Rava have darker skin and the Vina have lighter skin, which is why when we look at the skin color for the Vina, it's going to look light, but the Rava, like what I have here, is going to have those dark swatches. Like the lightest I can manage to get her is like that, but it's very washed out. It's very distilled. Let me hit cancel and switch to Vina. Whereas all the colors for Vina, like the darkest color I can get, like sun-kissed or like Merwib with the skin color. Like they're very, very light. It's very, very lore specific at the moment. But Yoshi P is opening up to the idea of allowing us as the player to have more control over how our character looks. I think this is a great step in the correct direction for the Final Fantasy XIV team. And though I still try to stick with lore as much as possible with some of my characters. Like, for instance, let me go back to the login screen. With one of my Cactuar alts, I have a lot of alt characters, by the way, you guys. A lot of alt characters. With Mira Wakandalo here. With how I came up with her name, I wanted to stick with as close to lore as I possibly could for our Moon Mikote. She is a Keeper of the Moon, and with the Keeper of the Moons, they are matriarchal, and they have a lot of H's in their names. Lots of A's, lots of H's, and all of that jazz. So I made sure that even though Mira typically wouldn't be spelled with those H's in there, I added H's in there. I spelled it Mihrah for Mira. Or Mihra would probably be how it would be pronounced. I wanted to stick with that lore as best as I possibly could. However, the reason I still think that it's the right step in the direction for Final Fantasy XIV, not just for players, but also for their lore, so to speak. Because, for instance, if we were to go to the first, well, they have different names for the different races. They're not called the Mikote. They are not called the Vieira. They are not called the Lalafels. Like, they have different names for their races. They have different naming conventions for the races and everything. And I feel like the same should be able to be said for our characters that we have in this game. Because honestly, like from the starting cutscene, we don't know where our character actually came from. We have the lore as far as them. Yeah, that was a really long lore call for you, David. Whew, that was like a solid 45 minutes. But though we have quite a bit going on after the story starts and everything, we don't know where our character actually came from. Like, they try to act like for instance, with Boba, she started in Gridania. So it acts like she came from Gridania. The same with Zelda. Like, she also started in Gridania. So it acts like she came from Gridania. Mira here started in Limsa Lominsa. So it says, oh, she's from Limsa Lominsa. Well, that starting cutscene, it shows you on a chocobo carriage heading to that town to start your adventuring journey. Doesn't say where you came from, because especially when you go to Gridania, they treat you like an outsider. You didn't actually come from Gridania. They don't like you. They definitely make it very clear that you are an outsider and you are not welcome from the get-go. So it's like, okay, where did we come from? Did we even come from the source? Did we actually even go to school here? And it's like there's potential for players to write their own lore for their character to say that no, they did not go here. They came from somewhere else. And their memories were wiped from this somewhere else. They don't remember being brought to the source whatsoever. That's why we don't know this information about them. They just happen to know their name, and their name doesn't fit the source's naming conventions. Like there are, and that's why their skin colors might not fit the source's specific skin colors and names and all of that stuff. Like there are different things that could blur those lines. And I think by allowing more choice with the players, allowing them to change the face with the horns, allowing them to go in for their Mikote and remove the war paint. Now, me, more than likely, I would be adding more war paint. I like having things that look like tattoos. That's one reason why I absolutely love this ninja chest piece, because it has the whole shoulder markings. But I would be like, you know what? I don't want the extra little dirt on my poor little Lalafel's nose. I want her nose to just look like a cute little button. I don't want the extra on my Viera's nose. That's one reason why I suck at making Mel Viera's, because I always get too distracted by the dirt on the Mel Viera's nose, and then I keep trying to do what I can to fix it, and there is no fixing it right now. So allowing a lot of that control within the player's hands, I think, is an absolutely brilliant choice on the part of the Final Fantasy XIV team. Because as I said, there's so many open gaps within the story where now we could write, when people go to write their own lore, they could theorize, oh, hey, my Mikote, my Viera, my Elezen didn't come from here. Heck, it would make more sense as to why, if you start in Gridania as an Elezen, for instance, if they're stone cold to your Elezen in Gridania, it would make a lot more sense because they don't frickin' recognize you. Whereas, okay, if you came from the general surrounding area, surely to God, with how small Gridania is, they would surely recognize you and not be complete total assholes and bitches towards you. But it allows for so much more player control by opening it up, and I think that's just not just good for lore-wise stuff, but it's also good for anyone that's coming in, because some people, for instance, don't like making the Rava Viera because they don't want their skin color on their Viera to be that dark. Some people don't make the Vina because they don't want their skin color to be that light. Lore be damned. for me, it gets hard to make a rain aura. Like I did make a rain aura here, as you see, resting bitch face on the Zayla too. I mean, I'm that one I did not put resting bitch face on, but I never play that alt. But like I tend to make a rain because I prefer to have the darker scales as opposed to lighter scales. And it's like, again, lore be damned. But it's hard, like with the Mikote. I like the lore that is happening behind the Keepers of the Moon more than I like the lore for the Seekers of the Sun. But it's like, okay, well, what if I want my skin color to reflect more of the sun as opposed to a Keeper of the Moon? Like, really good addition on the Final Fantasy XIV team. I'm trying to think of what else from Keynote, because like I'm also like looking at the time and I'm like, oh, I've got 25 minutes left here. I'm actually going to cancel logging into that character. I'm going to log into Boba. Another thing that I think that is absolutely fantastic and wonderful is the fact that with the Raid series next expansion, they are... because I canceled that login, it messes up. That's something I wish they would fix too. I get it if they can't, and I get that's probably not a priority because not everybody is psycho like me and has a ton of alts everywhere. But I think that the Raid series being collabs is absolutely awesome. Because like one thing for me, like I did do Savage raiding in Endwalker. I didn't do it this expansion. Not because I wasn't motivated, but because I just had too much going on in my life. And I didn't really feel FOMO about it. Like I felt a little bit of FOMO. Like a little bit. But not a ton of FOMO. Because I wasn't necessarily... Yep, totally totally a confusing thing to see there, Neris. Because yeah, my loading screen there, it totally... I need to change the movie on it. I think I've changed it a few times and it keeps reverting back to the Dawn Trail one. But yeah, for the reason that you just said, it looks like an exploding screen and I'm just like, I don't like it. But crap. I'm having a brain frog moment. At least with this brain frog moment, I do remember that I was talking. I just don't remember what I was talking about. And normally I remember, like, normally if I wasn't experiencing brain fog like I've been experiencing the last few months, I would typically remember what I was talking about before, for now. Oh, the collabs with raids. With next expansion, with them doing the 8-man raid series in collaboration with the Final Fantasy VII series. I am super hyped about that. And it's something that I'm like, hell yes, I would feel FOMO about it if this was going on during Dawn Trail, because real life would be in my way a little bit. But I'm seeing it for Evercold and I'm like, how can I work things out in my life so that I can Savage raid next expansion? Because like having that collaboration seems like it's going to be so awesome. Okay. I'll take a drink. Yes, you're safe. Yeah, it did. So the reason it did the timeout earlier was because of it claimed that it was for too many capitalized letters, is what the auto mod claimed. But I disabled that. I turned that off and said no, don't be timing people out for that anymore. But you are safe. You are safe. And the redeem worked. It properly said, hey, take a freaking drink. Thank you for checking on my hydration. Okay, so it was pretty funny that it was like not long after you did the hydration check last time. It was like, well, you can't do that, but then was also like, well, not only can you not do that, but we're going to throw you in timeout. It's like, what? Like, what is happening right now? Why? You know what? I'm not going to do rogue. I was thinking there for a minute I was going to do some rogue stuff, but I'm like, you know what? Especially since next expansion, I want my tiny little Lalafell gal here to become a bastion. She needs to finally stop procrastinating it and get frickin' Marauder unlocked. She needs that big giant size axe. She got to start working out those muscles because tiny little daggers and right now, I mean, there's no way this stick is very heavy. She's got to work those arm muscles so that way she can hold those dang shields. Because, like, Yoshi P would have been like, okay, yeah, I can handle this glam for going through the keynote and everything. But that Bastion glam is really freaking heavy. So Boba needs to train up. So we're going to start with unlocking Marauder here. And I am just going to quickly go through this because, or the dialogue, just because the dialogue. I'm sure we would love to see me mispronounce all these words, but it's very long and it would take me probably the entire rest of the stream just to read through all the dialogue for this. But I am super pumped about the collaboration for the next 8-man raid series to be with the Final Fantasy VII stuff. So I am for sure going to try to work out times so that way I can do the newer tier. But I would absolutely love to do Savage. The thing with the newer tier for me, and I find it a very weird comparison. So for anybody that has done Extreme Trials and Savage, I feel like it is very hard to compare those two approaches to battle styles. Because for Extreme Trials, like, which I haven't done so many in Dawn Trail. I do feel like they changed the style a little bit in Dawn Trail for the ones that I have done. But in Endwalker, particularly when we think of some of the trials from the 13th, a lot of those, they really just want to throw chaos at you and see how the hell you handle chaos. Like, I'm going to go ahead and say the name of the trial I'm thinking of. Barbarisha. Fucking Barbarisha. She just throws so many fucking tornadoes at you, so much hair, and disgusting shit. Like, yes, there is some strategy to certain things, but it's not near the level of coordination and strategy that you need for Savage. And Savage doesn't have near the chaos and, oh shit, how the fuck do I dodge these tornadoes while maintaining my melee uptime happening in Savage as compared to Extreme. So it's like they're very different challenges. But I think I get what they are trying to say with that new tier. With the new tier, they're trying to say more forgiveness on having players still standing. Because in Savage, there's not a whole lot of forgiveness if people die. There's a little bit, but not much. Ultimates, there's like no forgiveness. You fucking die, you fucking screwed. With Extreme Trials, they throw so much chaos at you that it's like, you probably gonna die. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Put some clothes on. And I guess we looking like a Tomberry. Oh. I just replaced my White Mage Glamour. Or my White Mage stuff. Hold on. Yes, recommend. Let's try this again. Recommend. Gear set. Add gear set. Okay. Glamour plate. Apply that glamour plate. And we are going to... So for anybody who doesn't know, you can link glamour plates to your gear sets. Go into the sub menu. So mouse and keyboard, you're going to right click and you're going to select link to glamour plate. It's going to come up with your glamour plate selection screen. Select which glamour you want to apply it to and say link. That way, if you're in a sanctuary and you equipped that gear, it will automatically apply your glamour for you. Anytime you're in a sanctuary. If you're not in the sanctuary, it's going to tell you that I can't apply the glamour. But like in a main city, for instance, like if I go to equip, whoops. Get my drop zone back on. Nope, apparently my buttons just aren't going to work. But when I apply these glamours, it's or apply these gear sets, it's automatically applying the glamour as well as I equip them. So that way you don't have to worry about things not matching. But it'll only do it if you're in a sanctuary, just like if you were to manually apply the glamour. But yeah, with the new tier, I would imagine that it's going to be more forgiving if people die. Like right now with normal, if people die, so long as it's not like an overwhelming number of people that die, it's very forgiving. But then you jump to Savage and it's like, there are definitely certain mechanics that if you have a person dead, you screwed. Other mechanics can be somewhat forgiving, but like if you have more than a couple people die in Savage, you're probably screwed, especially if it's current. So I think with the introduction of the new tier, they're going to try to find some sort of balance with that, have a little bit more forgiveness if people die, which I think will be so helpful for Party Finder, especially because like right now we have people that want to do more challenging content than normal, because as I said, normal is pretty forgiving. And you could just queue up for it in the Duty Finder and everything, but people want to have some sort of challenge, so they're going into Party Finder and wanting to go into Savage content. Doing Savage content in Party Finder can outright suck. You could spend a ton of time progressing the same mechanics over and over and over again because they take just such a level of coordination that it's hard to have that level of coordination with people that you've never coordinated with before. It's a lot easier to do that with even certain extreme trials. Are easier to do that. Yes, a raid group is lit, but in addition to their whole wanting to be forgiving thing, like it could be so hard for some people to find a raid group, for instance. Like some raid groups can only handle specific times. Oh, I need to go to the middle of Lenosha for this. So I need to go here. I don't necessarily think it's the player's fault for not doing Savage. So I think it has more to do with just how Savage is built, because Savage is really built more for a static team where you're not necessarily going into a party finder and trying to learn with completely different people. Because like even with healers, for instance, like yes, you have two healers, but the thing is those healers have to understand how the other healer is healing, when the other healer is healing, when to pop specific heals, etc. The tanks have to understand, okay, who's the main tank, who's the off tank, who is supposed to provoke when, their provoking style, their shirking style, all of that type of stuff. And then with the DPS, certain mechanics take different levels of coordination. For instance, just thinking of the very, very first raid fight of Endwalker, going into Eric Thenios. Like, thinking about, okay, who exactly are you going to have on that tic-tac-toe board? Who exactly is going to be in that DPS position that has to do a lot more coordinating than the other DPS positions? Because 3 of the 4 DPS positions don't have all that much extra to think about, but that 4th DPS position has more to think about, has a lot more coordinating to do with the main tank than what one would necessarily think. So it takes a lot of extra dedication and thinking through. And Savage can be for people who want to do ultimate raids. However, it's not necessarily only for players that want to do ultimate raids. Because I think ultimate raids are, again, a different tier. I haven't done ultimate raids myself necessarily. But from what I understand of the ultimate raids, that one is a little bit less about knowing your rotation as it is knowing exactly where to stand, where to go, and doing mechanics 100% perfectly right. Whereas Savage, you can mess up a couple of mechanics, but it really is more about you have to do your rotation right, especially if you're at minimum item level, and relying on being pentamelded, having that extra food and everything to get through those Savage fights. Because otherwise you're going to end up with getting to enrage and potentially losing out at a couple percentage. But not having or not doing it, I don't necessarily think is the player's fault, because with that, I need to put mounting on my hotbar here. It's like, yes, you could search it in Party Finder, but it's like it's so hard to find a consistent player group in Party Finder, which could be hard for the schedule of a lot of people. It's why I don't do Savage at the moment, because my schedule is kind of a bit of a train wreck with having a toddler. It doesn't matter how well I know my rotation. It's like my schedule is just not there. And for some people, their schedule is perfectly fine, but they might not have the ability to work with their particular rotation. That might just not be their playstyle, and people can be like, well, that might not be your playstyle, but unfortunately with Savage, it's like it could be, well, Savage. Like it can be very unforgiving, especially if you're a DPS and don't do your rotation very, very, very accurately. And doing all that research to make sure that you are properly not just doing your 1, 2, 3, but also utilizing your other abilities at the right moments. Like as a melee DPS, you need to make sure that you are utilizing feint at specific moments, so that way you're not taking as much damage from particular abilities and everything. And it's like, that could be stressful. especially like if you're going into Party Finder as a melee DPS, okay, how exactly are you supposed to coordinate with the other melee DPS who is doing feint exactly when? Like which particular moments do you want melee A doing feint versus melee B? Which melee is melee A versus melee B? There's just so much extra coordination that has to happen that it can be really hard for people that have to do things in Party Finder. And like I think especially like later in the tier, you can have some better luck with finding people in the Party Finder, because there will be people that are going through with re-clears that are like, you know what, even though I'm re-clearing, I will go in with people that don't have experience with the fight and help them learn the fight. But early in the tier, when people are getting their first clears, for instance, it can definitely be painful trying to find those people. And like people just don't have, like it's not a matter of, oh, you're not dedicating enough time. Like people just don't have 8 hours every day to be able to spend in Party Finder waiting for a group to fill and then going in and hoping that everybody is very quick to coordinate all of those specific things and everybody has watched the exact same guide videos. And everybody understands, oh, hey, we have an ad phase here. Because of how our party comp is, we have to hold our burst phase, because otherwise we're going to be throwing off exactly when people can utilize buffs and stuff. Oh, we have a black mage in the party. We have to completely reroute everything because we have a black mage that's in the party, and we have to think about exactly how they're going to coordinate their movements and stuff. Like I feel like the level of coordination that Savage needs just was not properly made for Party Finder. And I think having the addition of a newer tier is going to just work so much better with Party Finder as compared to your Savage. And with Savage, idealistically, you probably would be going into Savage if you wanted to do ultimates. You would be going into Savage with the team that you want to do ultimates with. That would be the ideal scenario, because at that point you already spend enough time together that you know how things work. You know exactly, like for instance, last expansion, like I did do Savage with a static group. Like, and we still talk about it to this day. Like, my free company does a event called Farming Fridays where they go into extreme trials and farm mounts for people. And, well, the person that hosts that was the other melee DPS of my party. Well, I know his clock position is always the left rear position. My clock spot was always the right rear position. Like, we just always knew that from the get-go. Even without assigned clock spots, we knew exactly which one of us was going where. And, like, we just knew to coordinate that. In particular, we knew that typically the first feint went to me, the next feint went to him, and we knew exactly when to stagger those. With our healers, they knew exactly when, okay, with this first raid wide, this healer is throwing out this particular shield, and our pure healer is focusing more on just providing dots at the time, and maybe throwing out this particular heal, but not quite as strong because the shield healer has thrown out more of the strong shields to prevent us from this damage. And oh, we're on Zeromus. Zeromus is doing our most beloved heal check at the very beginning of the fight, where you get dropped to 1 HP and the healer's got to get your HP all the way up. Otherwise, you have Doom on you, and if with that Doom, if it counts down and reaches 0, you die. Well, the healers knew, okay, well, with that particular raid wide that is happening, the shield healer is swapping over to provide some assistance for pure healing to the best of their extent. But, oh, we have a scholar that's a shield healer instead of a sage. So the Scholar's much more limited. So we have a white mage that's a pure healer that could really pump out those big heals right at the beginning of the fight. But then we have that linear attack that is happening. So we know that the shield healer is really going to step up during that phase because the white mage is going to be out of their heals, and the shield healer can really pump out those shields during the linear attack that is really a combination of a raid wide, but also a bit of a tank buster because those tanks that are in the front are taking more damage than everybody else. Then it's immediately followed by a tank buster. Like we knew going into that fight, because we were formed as a stack, even though that was an extreme trial as an example there, we knew exactly how to coordinate with each other because we were already organized with one another and knew how we all operated. And so we didn't have to spend nearly as much of the time with our party finder trying to figure out everybody's particular strategies. And yes, good team meshing is just so hard to find. And for Savage, if you don't have good team meshing, it is going to be brutal. It just will be, particularly in the later fights. The first fight is typically pretty forgiving. The second fight, they start punishing you a bit. And the third fight especially, they really start giving you the ultimate fuck you if you don't have that level of coordination. Like, you have to be so exceptionally coordinated with not just yourself and your own rotation, but with the others on your team, that Savage just isn't forgiving in that aspect. And extremes are more forgiving in that aspect, but that is also because, as I said, with extremes, they're less focused on that and more focused on the let me throw all the random shit at you and figure out how you can adapt to that random shit. And I kind of wondered if they were starting to adding in this new tier for rating, because I noticed particularly after Barbarisha and Endwalker, with the extremes, they started working more into that forgiving, coordinated style of battle for the extremes, and less into the chaotic random shit and random hair tornadoes coming at you and you hoping that you can dodge, and oh shit, now you have to find somebody to stack up with that's tied to the same pole tornado hair stack as you while dodging all the other hair tornadoes. Like, it's not necessarily oh, here, stand in this spot, stand in this spot, stand in this spot. Oh, we have our melee DPS going to this particular position so that way they can be in melee range while also focusing on their positionals, while the tanks are stacking at this spot and the ranges are going all the way out. For some reason in my brain was going to Proto Carbuncle from last expansion when I'm talking about that. Like, we're seeing the extremes start to go a little bit more towards that coordinated style as opposed to the random shit. So I think the addition of this tier is to help it be a little bit more friendly for Party Finder, and you trying to being able to find people that can potentially play on your schedule. Because finding a static of people that you are comfortable gaming with and stuff can be very challenging. Because one of the reasons my static didn't end up meeting for this expansion was, like, I started with this static from day one, and we had people swap in or out, and like one person would leave and we'd find another person to replace them and stuff. But I was like, well, my schedule is going to complete and total shit. My husband was part of the static, and he's like, well, my schedule is going to complete and total shit right along with hers, because both of our schedules went to complete and total shit because we had a kid. And we had a couple other people that were staying away, and they're like, well, finding a time to get all of us together was already hard enough before schedules went to complete and total shit. So it's like, it's so hard to find a group that you can do all that stuff with to begin with for Savage. And subsequently ultimates and having the new tier, it's going to be much more flexible. And I do agree. I do hope that it's like Advance in the variant dungeons. Because while I have not directly done that yet, I've seen, like, my free company members, several of them have done that, and there is like a level of coordination that is needed with those. That, like, it's like, okay, you need to teach like some mechanics and everything, but it's not a level of, okay, this is unforgiving to queuing with people that you don't necessarily know. Like, you can still teach them this stuff, but it not be a, oh, well, A, B, and C are all happening at the same time, and we have to know what tank is doing what, where exactly they're going to stand, etc. What exactly it, like especially the whole, where are they going to stand? Like, thinking of the of Fight 4 from Endwalker, of that raid series. Like, you had people that were getting this poison from the boss, and people that had tethers and everything, and you had to make sure that those tethers were easy to grab, and making sure that the sickness bounced a certain number of times and everything. Like, making sure that you're in the right positions for that. Like, coordinating that takes time to sit down. But then there's also a matter of, okay, you're taking damage from all of this. Like, which healer is focused on healing the main tank? What is the main tank necessarily doing? Does the main tank need to offload something to the off tank? What is the off tank necessarily doing to help protect the DPS of the party? Okay, for the DPS of the party, if they're the ones that are grabbing the tethers, they're the ones that need to have the melee priority, and the range need to make sure that they are fanned out a little bit more. Oh, we also need to make sure that our people know, don't run underneath the boss if you aren't supposed to have a tether, because you're going to end up grabbing a tether and fucking everything up. I mentioned that one because that one came up so many times. I kept having to tell people, stop running under the boss. You're stealing the tether from me. Because I'm the one that's far out, because the first tier last expansion, I was a ranged DPS. In particular, most of the tier I spent as summoner. I started off as red mage and had to swap to summoner. I'd run really far out because I wanted to make sure that the melee DPS had plenty of room and that I was not going to be in their way. Well, then one of the tanks kept running underneath the boss and stealing the tether from me, and then wondered why they died. I'm like, it's because you stole the tether from me. You ran under the boss. And, like, I'm going to the exact same spot every time, but they were not familiar with where I was running to. So, like, there was that level of miscommunication, and that level of miscommunication is going to happen way more frequently in Party Finder as compared to looking at it from a static position. And I think with the new tier, we're definitely going to see a lot less stuff like that happening. And if it does happen, it's going to be a lot less of, oh, we're going to have mechanics like this happening throughout the entire encounter. It's going to be, oh, maybe this happens once, maybe twice. And some of the other mechanics are going to be more forgiving, and you have more breathing room. So if people do happen to die, like in that case, we had like an off tank dying. Okay, well, you have a little bit more breathing room time for the healers to be able to pick that tank back up. Whereas in that particular fight, well, that tank died. We were pretty much screwed because then we had a tank buster, or a double tank buster that was happening afterwards, I think. And then the melee died, and then the melee would get pissed off because he's like, hey, why the fuck am I dead? I was like, well, my tether got stolen. And there was nothing I could do to keep the tether on because they ran under the boss. Like, there was nothing I could do to say, hey, no, tether, stay here. And yeah, it should hopefully be a different feeling going into something like that, going into this new tier, being able to not have to worry nearly as much of spending so much extra time trying to coordinate. Like, I would assume some level of coordination, but not oh, you best know, your co-healer, you best know their heal style inside and out, like what you have to see with Savage or Ultimates. Like, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be so much more forgiving and play in extremely well with their whole concept of trying to be more forgiving to people who can't necessarily log on every day. Because, like, for me, for instance, I can't log on every day. So, like, right now, like, I'm so badly behind on gear, which is another reason why I don't do Savage right now. Because I am not equipped for it. Like, I'm like minimum item level. I don't think I pentamelded. I could pentameld. I'm not spending the millions to pentameld. But like, I am in the lowest crafting gear right now. Like, I haven't even augmented because I don't have the schedule to do that. And like, I think it's going to be so much better to have that level of forgiveness that we just so desperately need, because I think that's Square Enix realizes that, oh, hey, most of our players are of an older generation that don't have the time to be on and playing this game 8+ hours a day, but they don't want to necessarily lower the difficulty of Savage because, oh, well, they do still have players that can do all of that stuff and find it very, very fun to do all that stuff. Like, when I do have the time to run Savage, it can be very fun. It's punishing, but fun. But allowing for that play style that is more flexible is going to be so much better. And I think that is also, like, with how they're talking about updating the gear path thing is also going to be an absolutely wonderful thing, because right now, like as I said, getting that best in slot gear, some of those pieces are locked behind Savage, and Savage is the only way to get those pieces. Now, right now, yes, you can get tone gear, but tone gear in certain slots is not the best thing for some classes. For instance, like last expansion, a lot of the caster pieces had spell speed, and a lot of casters don't want spell speed. It completely throws off that 2-minute rotation cycle, which will be great when they get rid of the 2-minute rotation cycle. But it's like, oh, no worries, David, I do have to stop streaming here soon because I'm actually like way over on time. But like, I remember Summoner just felt way insanely off with having extra spell speed. Like, I remember my spell speed was just absolutely ridiculous with having augmented tome gear. And like, the same could be true with some of your melee jobs. Like Reaper, you didn't really want skill speed. You wanted to stick with that 2.5-minute rotation, or 2.5 second cooldown is what I was thinking. I don't know why I switched to minute rotation. But switching it so that way, like, yes, it does happen more gradually. So, like, you're not going to be best in slot week 1 by any means. Opening it up to, oh, hey, you can gradually get this stuff is going to be so much better in the long run. Like, it'll be so good. Anyhow, as I said, I am like way over on time. I was supposed to end at 2. But I had planned on talking about a lot of that stuff on Sunday, and then I had to cancel Sunday because I messed up on an update on my computer and everything. Like, it got partway through the update, and I royally screwed everything up. Like, trust me, I was so pissed. I was so pissed off at myself. And as you can see, now now my computer is perfectly fine. It just took a minute to get everything fixed up. The next time that I will stream is on Friday. Friday, I will be back on my main gal and doing things with her. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do on my main gal yet, but my main Viera will be the one that I'm spending time on Friday. And then Sunday, I will be back on Boba here, probably doing more MSQ. But yay! Yay! I say yay, and I say yay just because I hate Windows that much nowadays. Like, my laptop probably didn't even need to move off of Windows, and it didn't completely move off of Windows, but everything that I could move off of Windows for my laptop, I moved off of Windows for my laptop. There's not very much that I had to keep Windows for. I had to keep it for, like, I have a Cricut cutting machine, and unfortunately the design space for it is just not very good with Linux, so that one I did have to keep that. And then there was like one other application that I had to keep Windows for, but otherwise, like on my laptop, I use Linux. I use Linux Mint on my laptop. It's not quite as geared for gaming, but it can work pretty well with gaming. I just didn't find that worked quite as well for streaming, which is why I made the swap on this machine to Nobara after I initially had Mint. But yes, like, it works very, very well. I do highly recommend, if you're not as familiar with Linux, that you do some research and everything with it before making the swap, because some things I do still use the command line for, but I have no problems with doing that because I do have a master's degree in computer science, and some of the classes that I took were Linux based, and I taught with a Linux operating system when I did teach computer science. So, like, I have a decent background with it. Now, I have, like, for personal use, I never used a Fedora-based one, so there were definitely things that I had to learn for all of this. And, oh, nice. Yes, I do have, like, I have a Raspberry Pi, and Ubuntu, Linux Mint is Ubuntu-based. So that one is very, very friendly for making the swap for Windows. The Nobara is Fedora based. It's not quite as friendly, but it's still really good, and its styling is very centered around, at least the version that I have. I went with the Steam HTPC version. It is very much styled around the Steam operating system, with the exception of it treats it like as though it's booting into desktop mode from the get-go, but you can switch it. Like, there's still an icon on the desktop that allows you to switch into the quote-unquote gaming mode. There is a version of it that starts in the gaming mode version, but I went with the HTPC, so that way it emulates more like a desktop computer. And then, like, there's also, like, Bazite, but Bazite, that one is much more of a fixed operating system. It works very well with handhelds, but it is also a Fedora-based. The Steam operating system, I don't think it's necessarily compatible with, like, desktop PCs yet or anything like that. But it is an Arch Linux base, and then like Cashy OS is also Arch Linux. Those ones, I think Arch Linux, like, Steam OS doesn't take quite as much of a learning curve as Cashy. But with Arch Linux, typically there is a pretty good learning curve with that one. But the reason the Steam OS doesn't have as much of a learning curve is just because it has a lot of things locked up, so that way you can't destroy things. Oh yes, I would assume that it would work better. I would research it for sure, but I would assume that it works better than a Cisco switch or router. Like, right now with my computer, I have an Ethernet switch that I use with it to have it connected to my Ethernet port and everything. I think that it works well with switches and routers. For the most part, I haven't had any problems with any of that connectivity on any of the operating systems that I have tried. I know that, disclaimer, Windows fucks up with my internet all the time, which is one reason why, like with my laptop, though it didn't necessarily have to make a dual boot switch, I did reset everything up so that way it's a dual boot. And then my Legion Go 2 handheld, I switched it off of a Windows operating system and I threw Bazite onto it because with the handheld operations, particularly with gaming, for some reason Windows has some sort of really buried setting that turns the Wi-Fi off so that way it can optimize your game better, which doesn't really work when you're trying to fucking download games. And it kept pissing me off. So I was like, no, fuck this shit. I'm going to Bazite. Which kind of sucks because the whole reason I got a Legion Go 2 was because, like, I had a Steam Deck which had the Steam OS on it. And I was like, well, I want to see how a handheld that's shipped with Windows comes and how it works. And within a few weeks, I was like, fuck this shit. I'm making it I'm switching off of Windows and going to Linux with it. Like, yes. Getting some things with Windows running is just, I don't know. I'm just very much on the fuck Windows ship. Like, it left the dock forever ago. Like, particularly when it tried to basically obliterate this PC. Like, this PC handles playing Final Fantasy XIV at 60 frames a second very consistently, like as you can see with my overlay in the top corner there, which I put on there so that way I can monitor that a little bit more easily as I stream, because one of the things I had a problem with Mint was when I streamed, my frame rates on absolutely everything would plummet. And it was doing like a weird queue issue, but it was only happening when I was either streaming or recording. And I think that had something to do with how I needed to set something up with my CPU. But Mint wasn't working quite right with that. So when I switched to Navara, I went through and I programmed in this overlay to have my frames per second in the top corner. So that way I can see, oh, hey, is it properly limiting my frames per second like I have set up? Because there were a couple times that it wasn't, and I had to go through and like toggle through, okay, follow main refresh rate, or, oh, hey, go back to 60 frames per second. Oh, go down to 30 frames per second. Like, I wanted to actually see, as I was gaming, oh, hey, is it maintaining this update? But it maintains that, and then stream, I did lower it to 30 frames per second just to be extra safe, but it handles that. And then I have VTube Studio that's also running, and I use the Prism model, which is an absolute beast of a model. Like, it's huge. Like, anybody that has used customizable models, like, I hear very consistently, like this one's the only customizable model that I have. But other people are like, yeah, I have several customizable models, and I've had models that were actually made for me, and the Prism model is way bigger than anything. And it runs so much. Oh, ew. That does not sound fun. That does not sound fun to deal with. Ugh. All right. So I do have to go ahead and end stream. I was supposed to end like almost 25 minutes ago. I do have to have like a few minutes of quiet time before I have to go get my daughter. As I said, next time I stream, I will be streaming on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. I will be on my main character. I will probably talk more about some of the updates that are coming and everything, because I still haven't had a chance to watch the rest of FanFest. I really mostly focused in on that keynote and, as I said, took an insane amount of notes. because that's just kind of the person I am. Like I'm a lifelong student. Like I like that type, learning all that type of stuff. But that is the plan for Friday. If you have not joined the Discord server, because this is like the community is on more than just when I am live. I highly recommend joining the Discord server. If you type !Discord into the chat, it will give you a link to the Discord server. It will post it onto the screen within that chat, but I highly recommend, depending on what platform you are, you type it into that platform. And that way it gives you a link in that platform that you can just easily click on and be able to join the server. And in that server, there are alerts for anytime that I go live and anytime that I post videos. One of these days, I will get my shit together and start making videos again. My shit has not been together. Gosh, I don't know the last time I had my shit together. I had it together enough before my computer decided to mess up back in February because of Windows. And I will get my shit together again, at least well enough to be able to make videos at some point. And I do have automatic updates for when I post videos within the Discord server. But even if you don't want those automated updates, quite a few that do regularly tune in to stream are also within that server as well. And everyone is absolutely fantastic to chat with as far as any sort of content goes, because I am not the all-knowing person. While I try to share as much information as I can, it can come off as I am an all-knowing person. I am not. As a prime example, I have not started a Dawntrail relic whatsoever. Like, I think I did 1 or 2 quests. But as far as actually doing anything as far as the relic goes, I haven't done shit. So I don't know shit as far as the Dawntrail relic. But there are plenty of people that are in the server that are on the current relic step that can share all kinds of tips and advice as far as what they are doing for the relic, what they are doing as far as the crafting and all that stuff. Because I know that there are some crafting steps and there are gathering steps, and there are certain things that are going on that maybe are a little bit different than what we've seen in past expansions for relics, as like example Endwalker, where we just had Tome Dump. So I highly recommend joining the Discord server if you haven't already. With that, I do want to say thank you all so much. I'm shooting some confetti off for all of you. Confetti. That was something else I did recently. I got confetti going. Confetti. More confetti. But you are all absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much for joining me on stream today. It's been an absolute blast. I love hanging out with all of you. And heaven forbid, like, I really hope I don't end up with another freaking migraine. Because if I have to cancel stream for another migraine, I might lose my shit. But I hope to see you all on Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And hopefully it is restful and relaxing, and you all are ready for Friday. Take care, everybody.